Hello and welcome. You saw it in the title, you see it here on my eyes. Today we're testing out the new Nomad Cosmetics New Zealand Stargazing palette. This is a palette that was not on my list. I didn't even put this on my wish list, to be honest, but I was a very lucky girl and I got this sent by a friend as a gift, so thank you very much if you watch this video. So this palette is inspired by the night sky over New Zealand, if I'm correct. To be honest, I kind of like the guessing games that Nomad Cosmetics does, but I just am not able to remember all the facts, all the inspirational things and places, whatever they saw to create this palette. I have created for this video two different looks, as you see, and out of all of them you see in here, I only haven't used Southern Cross and Carina Nebula. All the other shades I kind of included in this eye look that you can see in a minute, so both are created, of course, in this video. So let me just insert some swatches while I just talk a bit more about this palette, because here you see with the matte shadows, these range from a kind of two neutral shades with Tongariro Night Hike and Queenstown Skyline, to more of a pink vibe with Southern Lights and Auckland Stardome, but you also have with the Cosmos something very grey, and then also the purples and the blues with the rest. And what I think is very helpful is the Dark Nation or Dark Sky Nation shade, that's what it's called, which is a pure black, and it's very needed in this palette in my opinion, because if you want to do a night sky inspired look, you need a black shade. Then you have the 6 Duo and Multichromes. Two of them, Aurora Australis and Magellanic Clouds, are shades where I was like, why did they put two iridescent white shades in them? But I hope the camera catches this, because they do shift very different. One shifts very pink, the other shifts more like golden orange, and I really enjoy this. Then you have Jewel Box, which in my opinion is not a duochrome or a multichrome, but I think it's labeled as one, but it's just a very pretty gold. And with Carina Nebula and Southern Cross, you have two shades that have a golden orange bronzy base, but one shifts green and pink and the other one just shifts like a lighter version of this. In the end, I'm comparing this with something else from Nomad Cosmetics, and that's a bit of a surprise because the last shade here, Milky Way, this is a very beautiful duochrome shifting from blue to purple. Stunning shade, but as I said, we will talk about these three shades that I just mentioned at the end of the video more intense. With this release, there is also something else new at Nomad Cosmetics. When you live in Europe, it's not hard to get a hold of Nomad Cosmetics, but it was quite expensive because you paid basically the price that was like translated from dollar to euro, for example, and then when the stuff arrives you had to pay the taxes for your country, and the shipping was, I think, like starting at $20, which is super expensive. Since this release, they now do have a warehouse in Ireland. That means the stuff comes from the EU. My friend who ordered this for me ordered this on the release date, and this palette actually came to me last Friday, yes. And it would have been much quicker, but they needed kind of a week to pack this. But they also stated that when it released, that when you order from the EU with their new EU warehouse, their like processing time takes round about a week, which was the case in this one. So she ordered this on the day that it was released, and it was sent out then finally last Monday and came to my house last Friday. So when you do not count the Monday when they shipped, which is basically just the day they created the label, it had a shipping time of 4 days, which is absolutely stunning, because before that I ordered from Nomad Cosmetics already by myself and it took like 2 to 3 weeks to arrive here. So I'm very happy that they now have an EU warehouse and that it's now much easier to get a hold of these beautiful products when you live in the EU. But now let's just head over to the tutorial portion where I design these two looks. Okay, for the first look, I'm starting with Tongario Night Hike. I'm sorry if I'm butchering these names. And I apply this in my transition area. This shade immediately reminds me of Lisa Aldrich French Grey. Oh, I like this a lot. I'm now going into the Cosmos with a smaller blending brush. This is a Be Perfect X Stacey Marie 204. And I apply this directly in the crease. This is a really nice gray with a lot of blue undertones, kind of like my hair. I'm now tapping into Oakland Stardome and I apply this here on the outer part and also throughout the crease. I want to just give this a pink tint. I now use a little bit of the Dark Sky Nation. That looks quite pigmented, so let's see what I mean with a little bit. But I do want to apply this here just on the outer area for more depth. And I slightly dab this in the crease and a bit above. I applied a tiny bit of glitter glue and now I want to use the Aurora Australis shade all over the lid. That's why the black outer part, because I want to see how this shade turns when it's on a black base. I'm sorry that I did the gas, but holy shit. Okay, now I'm tapping this over the dark. Ooh, yes. This is surprisingly opaque. So the dark shade, that black, does not show through a lot. So I'm going back in with a tiny bit on top of this. Just a little bit. And then I go back with the, I forgot the name, Aurora Australis shade. Just a little bit, not much. So for the other eye, I'm starting the shade with the Cosmos. And I apply this as transition shade. By the way, it's always harder to film this eye for me because I feel like this is naturally, since I do use my right hand. But fingers crossed this turns out kind of nice. I do take this shade quite far up this time. I'm now tapping into Tekapo Stargazing and I apply this throughout the crease. These mattes are much more pigmented than in the palettes before. To compare it a bit, the pigmentation level is very Royal Europe-like. That was intense too. So I'm tapping back into the Cosmos shade and I just need this to blend this out a bit better. Wow. Was not expecting this, I'm honest. On a pencil-shaped brush, but with much longer bristles, I'm now going into Carter Observatory and I apply this here on the outer part. I really try to build up the shade and concentrate it very intense on this outside part. Whatever is left on the brush, I flick into the crease. So I applied glitter glue on the lid and now I'm going into the shade Milky Way. And I apply Milky Way on the outer part of my lid. And I do very carefully also tap it on the center. So I want to have the like inner third, I want to leave bare. I'm now using the shade Jewel Box. Beautiful gold kinda. And I used this to fill in the rest of the lid. When you have a very sharp, precise brush, this is easy to do. So I highly recommend taking a very, very precise brush for this step. And I do take Jewel Box also on top of the Milky Way shade by just tapping in the center. Tapped also back into Milky Way and now I tap on top of the same area. And when you now just flip the brush, you know, with one side, then the other side, then the other side, is the easiest way here to blend two very, very different shimmers together. Okay, so on the right eye, I'm using now Auraki Mackenzie. I'm sorry, I think I butcher these names very bad, so please don't take this offensive. And I apply this on my lower lash line. But not all the way through, just to the center. Because I'm now tapping into the shade Southern Lights, and I use this to blend towards the inner corner, and I also blend this out a bit. For a little bit more of a blended look, I'm also using a Queenstone Skyline, and I just apply this here underneath to make it more diffused and a bit on this outer part and towards the brow. This is basically just to make the blend a bit more seamlessly into my skin tone. For my inner corner highlight, I'm going into Magellanic Clouds, and yes, I had to Google how to correctly pronounce this. Aren't you proud? I did Google it. And I apply this as inner corner. Ooh, wow. This has an unexpected shift, to be honest, which I like. Do have a bit of glitter fallout from that inner corner shade, but just flick it off with a spoolie. So on my left, I am starting with Carter Observatory again, and I apply this on the outer part, but this time all the way to the inner corner. I'm now going into the shade The Cosmos again, and I use this to blend that out. And you know what? I wanted to use Magellanic Clouds on this side for inner corner too, but let's switch it up and use Aurora Australis. I feel like this is a nice counterpart to both of these eyes, and I apply this right here and a bit upwards. It's kind of funny. You know what I mean? They kind of pair well together. Okay, these are now the two finished looks. Close-up shots of this you can of course find on my Instagram side, but let me just, how do I say this? So I'm very happy with this side. This eye look, let me just triple check in the mirror, is divine. And to be honest, it's kind of unbelievable that this is only one shade on the lid because it just looks very dimensional. I love this look. This side of my eye is, I don't want to say that I'm not happy with this, but there is just something throwing me off. I mean, gold and blue I think is a color combo that is just unbeaten. I think it's very underrated. I love this. It's super pretty, but the mattes is what are, not that they're not working, that's not right. I think it's partly my fault because I underestimated the power of these blues. So for example, when I used this here, I was a bit shocked on how intense this is, and for whatever reason, as soon as I placed it on my crease area, it was super hard to blend, and I had to rub off a bit with my finger and go over it and blend again and create a new base, and that was a bit of a hassle. So definitely something to think about when you buy this palette. Again, these are very deep and very intense. So is this palette now something you should immediately run out and buy? First of all, this is not limited edition. They stated that this will be at least for a year in their like inventory or like catalog of products. So no, don't run out and buy it. Is it a good palette though? Yes, I truly believe that, but maybe also just look through your collection. What else do you already have? What else do you already have from Nomad Cosmetics? That is something to maybe even think about too. And just the moment that I said this, think about what else do you have from Nomad Cosmetics, I all of a sudden had the thought in the back of my head that a couple of these duochromes in here I have seen already from Nomad Cosmetics, and there is only one palette that had these duochromes, and it was the Royal Europe? Royals of Europe? What's the correct name? Royal Europe, okay. And I'm talking specifically about this one, Royal Treasure, and which one else? Bleu de France. Let me swatch these two for you. So They're beautiful, by the way. I don't want to argue on how pretty these shades are because they definitely are. So let me just like this. So here you see it. These are the two shades from Royal Europe. And I could be totally wrong now, but for whatever reason, Milky Way and Southern Cross look as if they are the same. So let's just compare them. Am I crazy? Oh my God. Oh my God. I'm not crazy. Please ignore the fact that this finger has no nail. This is Bleu de France from Royal Europe, and this is Milky Way. They have the same bases and the same shifts, but the difference between Milky Way and Bleu de France is this is like an amped up version. This has a bit better quality, this feels a bit smoother, and this is a bit more intense. Like, I don't know if you can tell, but Milky Way even has somewhat of holographic specks throughout, which this one, Bleu de France, doesn't. So now let's head over to these two. So this shade is Royal Treasure, and this one is Southern Cross, and it's the exact same thing. Same base color, same shift, but the one from the New Zealand palette has better quality, feels better. This, or like both of them, are like more shiny, more reflective. So the pigments, in my opinion, are better in here. And this also has the tiniest amount of holographic specks in them. So now I got really curious and I added this shade. This is also from the New Zealand palette, and this one is the shade Carina Nebula. I haven't used this in the look. So these two now are Carina Nebula and Southern Cross from the New Zealand palette, and this is the one from Royal Europe. Even these two, let's be honest, they're redundant. I see when I just look at this that Southern Cross definitely has more of a green shift to it, while Carina Nebula stays more in the golden pink, but kind of old gold with the green undertone shift. But was it really necessary to have both in this palette? Not really. I mean, yes, Southern Cross has also a pink shift going on that Carina Nebula doesn't. But you can get this with... For my liking, they're the tiniest bit too close to each other when it comes to the base shade. If they both had different base shades, then I probably wouldn't even have realized that. But wow, why haven't I realized that earlier? So just holding these side by side, I mean, there is clearly a difference between them in the vibes. And I'm honest with you, the Royal Europe palette I have used only once so far, because I'm not happy with the color story in here, while this one, even though I had my problems with the blues, has a much more appealing color story to me. So out of all the Nomad Cosmetics palettes that I have, which are... How many do I have? I do have the Christmas one, the Santa's Village, the Snow Whistler Lodge, then we have Verona, Royal Europe, Ghost Town USA, and this. So this is number 6, if I didn't forget one. No, the Okawango, whatever, from last year's summer, I don't have. I think it's number 6. Out of all those 6 palettes, this is probably... Okay, you see, I do really struggle with this decision. Color story wise, this is not my favorite. Color story wise, my favorite is actually the Ghost Town USA palette. This is outstandingly stunning. This one is very, very close to this because I just really enjoy the vibe of this, the space thing that is going on. I enjoy that even the pinks and the purples, they lean very, very cool toned. I mean, look at this eye here. I love this look. These two iridescent multi-chromes, they are stunning. Both of them, very unexpected shifts in them. They look not very similar in the pan, so you can clearly see that they do have different shifts going on. But when you first just look at them, you'd be like, okay, why do you give us two white iridescent ones? But they do make sense, as you see. I do enjoy them. The mattes are outstandingly good. They are the same perfect quality as in Ghost Town USA, and I think they really amped up the quality. I like the formulation of their multi-chromes, and I also like the formulation of their shimmers that they have since the Ghost Town. I mean, they haven't released anything else with that formulation, but I hope they keep the Ghost Town formula thriving, because that's really good. I do think that quality-wise, this is in the same top spot as Ghost Town USA. So if the Nomad Cosmetics quality that in other palettes, like for example the Verona palette, the shimmers are shit. The mattes, good, they're fine, but the shimmers are shit. Santa's Village, mattes are good, shimmers are shit. If this is something that always held you back from trying Nomad Cosmetics, I think with either Ghost Town USA or the New Zealand Stargazing one, New Zealand Stargazing one, you will get a palette that you like. If you like this one more, or the Ghost Town for example, that completely depends on your preference of color story. So let's end the video on the note, I like this palette. It's not a top 10 palette for me, but it's one of the better top 3 that Nomad Cosmetics has released out of all of them that I tried so far. So what do you think? Have you tried this palette? Is it on the way to you? How is it? Let me know down below, and also let me know, do you want to see a couple more looks? I can do some as a shorts for YouTube. So thank you for watching, don't forget to subscribe, and I can see you in the next video.